mayor in town, or is he out
He was
dancing?
yesterday, and I think he's gone this morning.
Back south.
Back to the land of sun and sand, yes.
Okay. So we'll excuse him. That's it, Michaela and Mayor?
Oh, did I leave a work spot?
Am I supposed to be here?
Oh, yes, you can move down. I was moving things when I knew people weren't going to be here, and
This works out nice. You keep
I
moving.
didn't finish. Hey, don't be hey. Easy.
Right here.
Let me.
Yes, my apologies. I didn't slide.
Now, Shauna, you ready to fire it up? You got attendance all under control?
Michaela's not coming.
It looks like we'll be excusing
She's
Michaela
trial.
and Mayor this morning. So, public comments? Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Bill Flickinger. Some of you may have seen the construction on our building, 22 West Chicago. So Audrey suggested I might want to update you because some questions have been asked and so forth. My wife Cheryl and I bought the building in 2016 from Bob Granger. And we've actually done a lot of work inside as far as cleanup, asbestos removal, some demo, a lot of design with our architect and structural engineers. And we were ready to start construction right about the time the pandemic hit, which, tripled the prices, caused everybody to slow down. So now we're in what we call phase 1A, which is a very important phase. There's a record, or a fire of record in 1871, where the building had a substantial fire. And our contractors have been able to verify it's a pretty intense fire. So part of this phase was to address a structural issue on the front. As you probably know, the only historic part of the building is the upstairs, second floor facade of the building. It has the original windows, which we did restore a few years ago. Original brickwork. It looks just like it did, at least 1895, because we have some photos, 1895. But we think it's pretty much original. Apparently in the fire, when they rebuilt it, they didn't tie the brickwork, the new brickwork, back to the old brickwork very well. So over time, the front of the building, especially there's two steel beams, moved forward, started to roll. And this caused a lot of fracturing in the brick and so forth. So when they got into it, they realized they had to replace one of the steel beams. And I don't know if any of you saw them doing it.
I enjoyed that.
Looked pretty tricky.
Yeah.
I was looking at it constantly to see what they're doing and why.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So after some big change orders, obviously, they got a steel beam and replaced it, tied it back in. They've tied all the brick back in, repaired a lot of the brick. In the process, they also had to pour two steel reinforced columns, concrete columns, to hold the steel beams. So the structural part that they just repaired should last couple hundred years because it's way better than it was. And now what they're doing is rebuilding the storefront. So it's a complete rebuild. It's essentially a historic replica in part, in that the bottom is going to be wood trim with inserts and such, but the actual windows will be aluminum standard strong windows. And they're pretty far along on it. I went over and talked to them. So they're pretty close to painting. They're going to paint the brick, repaint the brick. So when they're all done with phase 1A in a month or two, you'll look like, hey, we're ready to open. We're not ready to open yet. We have a lot to do inside. That's what we've been doing. So, and it's been going pretty well. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
The recess on the lower, is it going to be recessed on the lower level, or is that just doing the repair and then it'll come back out to flush on the lower level?
So it'll be similar to the storefront that was on there, in that you'll have an entranceway, like a recessed entranceway. And then what used to be the display windows, we're taking down to floor level so that people can sit in those areas and access them. So it's going to look a lot like it did before as far as the configuration. Now, they did have to do a lot of work in the basement because when they changed the storefront over time, they didn't match the supports in the basement. So they've put very substantial posts and supports, 12-inch concrete footer for it in the basement to hold all that secure. And then we do have an awning that we've already had that's in storage that's going to come out in storage and go up, a fixed awning.
Oh, you've created a lot of conversation.
Yeah,
say that.
now it's all wrapped up, so it'll be a surprise.
Yeah, it's even more.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what's going on back there? So,
Anyway,
well, it's awesome that you've come to our community and doing a wonderful job, obviously, with one of the structures.
well, thank you.
Nice for the update. Any questions for Bill, besides curiosity?
I just want to walk through at some point of all the support. It's fascinating how
Okay.
they worked and did the job.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome to our community.
Back.
I'm sorry?
House they live in, and they've done an amazing job.
No.
Louise Wallace.
Oh, is that right? You're living in the mayor's house? That's wonderful.
I grew up across the street.
Welcome to Coldwater.
Well, yeah. As we get older, it does seem to become more maintenance and expense. Whether it's us or the buildings, I'm finding out these days. I'd be curious, though, do those walls talk to you in Mayor's house? Mayor Louise's house? I'm sure she talks to you at times. She always has had an opinion. I wish you would have known her. She was a wonderful woman.
She doesn't talk to us. We do have some of her signs.
Is that
Aw, fun.
She was a wonderful part of our community. Absolutely wonderful. She was involved and just her whole interest was in the community, I think, as Lisa will concur. And she loved trees. Lisa's Louise and your mother were on the bandwagon for that. Is that correct? Yeah, there was a movement to take many of the trees down on Chicago Street, down where we are, down to the hospital. I think they were looking to take all the trees down. And Louise, mayor at the time probably, and Lisa's mom was not going to have it. So we have trees on Chicago because of Louise and Ruby. So, okay, consent agenda. Is there any discussion within the consent agenda? I had just a couple real quick ones. Live auction. I know we voted on that, but I see we're writing a check that was bought last November. The live auction for the radio.
Yes, the Tibbetts auction is in November. I believe you guys approved the work plan at the 16th meeting, most likely. Yeah, that timeline makes sense. And then we've officially paid that bill, and now we're working with Ken to plan in that 4-hour block.
So we bought that last November. Ah, interesting. Time goes by way too quickly. I thought, geez, oh Pete.
It might be in the December, but you've got November and December.
Okay. Children's Museum. How's the budget going for that? Are we coming along nicely?
We are. I
I see expenses in there adding up, and I just thought we'd maybe get a little update.
Well, based on our contingency, I think we're going to be pretty close to budget.
We're hoping to be pretty close. We have, yes, we had everything line itemed out, and then different categories that haven't been tapped into. One being our kind of our contingency bucket, which we're starting to get into a little bit, and we're waiting for some final bills to come in. We still have several things that will come in, but overall, it does not appear as though we're going to be over budget yet. Now, I think we've found all of the surprises that we're going to find. And we did have some extra work that the Children's Museum is paying for in their playroom. No, it's not a playroom, but their activity room, and some different things in the building that they specifically wanted that then gets billed to them or that they pay for directly. So that is happening. And then we had, when we had the bill come in, the original quote from Winterworks, there were some things that were like to be determined. So there were some things that were not specifically bid out that we knew, like, are we going to install the fire doors, or is Scott Winter going to do the fire doors? Those types of things that you'll see additional funding for then from the original from the original quote that came in. The awning is on its way, hopefully by the third week of February. We have to get some final approvals and a final mock-up on that, but it's just fabulous. The Children's Museum changed their logo with this great local company called Second Story Marketing, and the logo is amazing. And so we're really looking forward to that. Some touch-up paint that will have to be done on the exterior when the weather breaks, but nothing that will break the bank. And what I like to tell Audrey sometimes when she looks at the numbers and gets excited that maybe we're going to have extra, I laugh at her and go, we're not, because up at the top, I don't know if you remember, but up at the top there was some, we did not do that when we did the roof and the painting, but because it wasn't at the point that it had to be done that last summer, but it's going to have to be done, that cornice that's at the top. So anything extra that we have, I'm hoping that we'll allocate to go ahead and finish that up. We just don't want a situation where anything eventually falls into the, awning or on somebody's head. So we're going to get that fixed with any additional funding that we have.
That Brecker concrete up there?
At the very top of the lip is concrete. And so we do have a quote for that. So we'll be kind of circling back when the weather breaks. We will be announcing in March another donation that we got for not only the DDA, but towards the Children's Museum. So that'll be a fun announcement that will also help our bottom line towards the project. Longstreet Furniture got the bid for the flooring and the carpeting. As soon as the painters are out, they'll start on that project. So I don't know if you've seen the windows have been down. It's just amazing. And we're really happy with the progress.
Nice.
Any questions?
Do they have a timeline yet, Lisa? What are they thinking?
I think we're comfortably, the Children's Museum is comfortably thinking they'll be able to move in March, or start moving in March, but we haven't set yet they're going to have an open house and a grand opening, and that additional funding will be announced at that time. But I'm expecting that it won't be until March. And while I'm here, I'll talk about Southern Flats. That's going along nicely also. They are on budget, but part of the reason with these projects that involve the state of Michigan, they also have, the contractor has to bid to not exceed bids. So they're very detailed. That's why it's gone back and forth before we got started. So they are on budget, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And they have drywall up and are starting to work on the finishes inside. And I don't know if you guys have paid attention at all to the windows or what's going on, but it's even cooler on the inside. It's like when you walk in and you see these windows, everything on the inside is wood and painted white. And then right now, all the drywall's up, but they're really nice units.
So do they plan on being open?
Same thing, probably, they're going to be probably a little bit later, only because of the final painting that has to be done on the stucco and the stucco replacement, and then, but I'm expecting April.
Great.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Another thing, spa recycling event or spray recycling event. What was that?
I was going to ask about that too. My budget.
Greg recycling. $562.26.
Oh, here's what happened. So this is a finance question about how we track expenses that come in. We had a bill that was that amount for a waste service relative to the progress at the Taylor's building, but we essentially paid one that was labeled incorrectly, and it's just something that we can't change once it's in our system in a certain way. So the amount is correct and the label is incorrect, essentially. So 2 invoices were paid of the same value, and the number that was ascribed to our account just had the wrong title on it. Good question.
And the Donner property, where did that check go to? Which property was that attached to?
44 North Hanchett Street, which is within the district, and it is an apartment. Would you call it a duplex or
Right behind you. Brad.
Oh.
The house.
Yes.
Literally
Yep.
Yep.
where the apartment should be
Yep.
sitting?
Yep.
Yeah,
So
okay.
he made, all right. He made some improvements to the exterior of that building, and he created an additional housing unit in that space. So, added +1 to the tally of downtown units available.
Great. How many units is in it? I didn't realize, I saw
I believe
things.
3 total.
3.
3 apartments? Great, great,
And they're full, he said.
Makes sense?
wonderful. Any other questions in the consent agenda, be it the budget or any other items there? If there are none, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Michael, is there support?
Second.
Second by Courtney. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. End of consent agenda, it says. Tibbetts update, Christine. You gonna do a little Chicago for us this morning? Oh, gotcha. Thanks, Chris. More, it's astute.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Lots of things are happening at the theater. Tomorrow night, we have our annual meeting, so you are all invited to come and find out what we've been doing for the past year. All in all, I think it was a good year, but you'll have to come to find out the details. Also this weekend, we have a big concert, Beginnings, which is a tribute to Chicago, sponsored by Haas Kaywood. So we're grateful
Michael.
to that. Big deal. I'm hoping to get a few more people. We do still have tickets available. Bars will be open. There's still room in the on your feet section if you want to be on your feet and dance for part of it. But things are looking good for that one. The other big thing that we are working on is, of course, the dressing room renovation, which began in December, and we are in a tight schedule to try and get as much done as possible. The high school actually moves in on Sunday, so we were unable to get the whole thing done from them, but we will be in good shape. They can at least have the main floor dressing rooms, and we've got extra rooms set up for them downstairs in the production office and the green room. So hopefully we can accommodate them, and they do have the honor of being the first ones in at least part of the dressing rooms and stuff. So it's looking beautiful. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm very excited for the response when we get some of our actors returning to see what they now get, because it's, for once, it feels like we're treating them well. So very exciting about that. The other thing, now that is partly funded through the Michigan Arts and Culture Council. We had a $70,000 grant for which we had to meet the match, and we are getting very close on that match. We're still taking donations if anyone is so inclined. And then our life safety project, which was last year's project, finally did get wrapped up in December, and all of the fire alarms are in and working, and they tested well, and we've tested them with our fogging systems that they use on stage to make sure we know how everything's going to react, and it's all good. And it also included a lot of extra lighting equipment, including a lot of LEDs throughout the entire building. So all of the art galleries now on LED, all of the office spaces are all on LED. So we're happy to have that upgrade as well. The other thing about the dressing room renovation, we are going to dedicate them in April. We wanted to give a lot of leeway to make sure that they really were done by the time, and then we had to wait for an opening in our schedule because once the end of February, we have the Noon Club show. And then right after that, there's a Quincy High School and Community Theater and our Tibbetts Young Audiences. So there's just back-to-back shows. So we really had to wait till there was a break and all of that before we could dedicate those dressing rooms. And of course, it'll be a thank you to all of our donors. Actually, all of our donors for everything that we've done at the theater, including the facade, because there's a lot that we've accomplished, and we're very proud of that. On a different note, Tibbetts is part of the group that's working on cultivating community, and we had a lot of events that happened in October. We're very proud of what happened. We've been evaluating that, and we will be moving forward with some new events and trying to figure out just what that will look like. And to that end, we are having a meeting on March 2nd, to which we hope to include a lot of the underrepresented groups so that we can get a little bit more of their input onto what exactly we should be presenting and doing for cultivating our community. That's what's going on. And of course, we're getting ready for summer theater. Any questions?
You went over it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you Saturday night. You're up, Audrey.
Yes,
Rock
I've
and
got
roll.
lots for you today. Starting, I just wanted to say to board members, I've noticed you guys have been out and about in the community for more than just DDA recently, which is super exciting. Brad, you've been on the air talking about the Rotary Showdown
Wonderful.
Drawdown recently. Pat Kelly was on the air recently talking about Branch County Men Who Give. Matt Bielkidi promoting Tibbetts and the classic film series. And then, of course, all the other boards and commissions that I know you guys participate in. So thank you for doing all of that in addition to doing all of this. So just wanted to let you know I've been on my radar and on the radio lately. And with that, I'll move into my actual report. So I didn't go over our impact report from last year because I know we've kind of had that and shared that several times at this point, but I did want to include other data that is not reflected in that annual report. So for example, there's a figure of around $535,000 that is in that report that talks about private investment in the downtown, but that's not the whole picture of private investment, and it's not the whole picture of investment generally. So we had a really significant year for public investment in the downtown, both from the city of Coldwater, from yourselves as a DDA board, and from state grants. That totaled close to $1.5 million between the parks renovation, the DDA rebates, funds that went towards the renovation at 8 South Monroe and all of that. So
Sounds like a fair amount of that Bill contributed to the public investment in the community.
oh, okay, that's actually, no, I'm glad you mentioned that because Bill's work will not be reflected. This looks back, so it only counts investment once a project is completed. So the Gillespie building is not included in that. The second half of Four Corners Park, I don't believe, was included in that. These are investments that will show up in our next year's report, so we might have even more some numbers for you then.
I'm just curious, Audrey, like how does that compare to years past? I mean, it can't be close to what we've.
It depends on the year. I think
Okay.
the past 5 years, we've seen a lot more investment than we have
Okay.
previously. I know there was a
agree.
period of when we
Sure.
were
I
seeing
would
business closure and
Right.
delayed maintenance on buildings, and we're kind of at a point in the life cycle of both businesses and the structures themselves where it's time to put some work into them. So, and just as an example of what some of that report doesn't reflect is a true cost of a project. For example, at 8 South Monroe, when they invested the chunk of private investment that counts towards that, that doesn't include the purchase of the building either. So we had close to $800,000 worth of money invested in the downtown over the course of October to October. That was just in purchasing property alone, and that's not included in that private investment figure. That figure really reflects renovations, facade improvements, and things of that nature. So just wanted to give you extra data points to feel pretty good about.
And on those state grants, those don't come until the project is completed.
Yes, completed. Right. So we got to count one of them, and we've got others that we know are underway that we don't get to count until this coming year. Also not included in that report are city-hosted events and volunteer hours, because again, that Main Street Impact Report is really to trace what that program is producing, the work of this board and its projects, and so it doesn't necessarily track things that happen in the downtown or happen by other key entities, but are not necessarily tied to the Main Street program itself. So 75 plus volunteer hours between Apple Fest, Strawberry Fest, Hop Summit Monroe, and of course, many thousands of event attendees that we've also seen downtown in the past year or so. Questions about that? So I've got more numbers for you. We might have questions here. I also wanted to show you the grant activity that we were truly blessed to have experienced across many projects over roughly end of 2021 and 2022. We had $27,000 through the Match on Main program that was awarded to 2 projects, one of those being Schemmels, who's currently completing their project, and then the other, which is finished, which is architectural renderings for El Taco Loco and their buildings. We have 6 businesses participating in Optimize Main Street, which are grants for tech improvements at a value of up to $15,000 to those businesses. I think there's a, oh, there it is. Capital Improvement Program is offered through the Michigan Arts and Culture Council, the same entity that supports Tibbetts in many ways. $20,000 towards the downtown restrooms, which City Council formally approved this Monday. So I have a slide on that as well. And then, of course, the bigger items, the Community Revitalization Program, which contributed $250,000 to 8 South Monroe, has earmarked $450 towards the Gillespie Building at 27 Marshall Street, an investment that, again, will be included in our next impact report, but was not included in this first one because it's not complete yet. And last but not least, public spaces, community places, and patronicity. The $50,000 match that they provided and the $70,000+ that we were able to raise locally towards relocation and expansion of the Children's Museum. And breathe. Yes.
Just going to mention, for next year also, we will be able to count all the money that was invested into the Children's Museum, the amount that was borrowed, the amount that was
Yep, we did get to include the facade improvements.
Yes.
So the facade improvements were included in that number because that was something that we had to do and it was technically independent. But all the rest of the renovations will count.
And then what the Children's Museum is putting into the building will also be part of that.
Yes.
Their physical structure and then of what they're doing to that building. So that number will be even bigger.
A big year.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun year, I think. And then one note I wanted to extra information to add to this slide is because we are a Main Street program and because we are doing the work that you guys are doing in restructuring, we've already seen $45,000 direct cash to businesses in roughly the first 15 months in our participation. So I know sometimes some things are cumbersome or we're really getting used to doing things in a brand new way, but there's a lot of value in that to the downtown. And also, around $700,000 has come from the work that City Council has done, staff, and this board towards those items that were relative to the redevelopment ready communities certification. So updating our bylaws, working with when Katie Hicks was here and some of the work that she was doing has made us eligible for $700,000 that we already know has came or is coming to projects downtown. So really getting our house in order of sorts is really paying off and really providing a lot of support to downtown projects. That's my big fun slide. So I just had this was an overview of Match on Main because we do have another funding round that is out. I know I hadn't gotten to report directly about Schemmels, and so they are digitizing their processes internally on their internal operation side. So, less paper and being able to track projects over time. And then also improving the customer experience by implementing digital tools that allow them to visualize and provide custom images to customers of the many great things that they offer. And then, of course, our current funding round. I won't go too into detail on this. It's very similar to what we did last time in terms of local criteria. And businesses have until about February 12th to apply if they have projects that are eligible and they're ready to complete those. So I have talked to a few downtown businesses to see if they're interested, see what they have planning. Some of this is also timing. So because this program has been offered twice a year for the past few years, they could choose to apply now or wait until the fall or possibly next spring, depending on what they're doing. So questions about Match on Main? It's roughly repetitive since we kind of have this process down now that it's our third regular round of funding.
How many folks, is anybody showing any interest this round?
I would say 3 so far. I'm not sure who will actually choose to apply, but we'll see. Could be higher. Optimize Main Street I mentioned. This one has been a quieter program because it hasn't had the same application requirements that other grant programs do. So both this year and last year, MEDC has come to us and they've said, hey, we've got extra contracts or extra spots available to this that we're going to basically give to Main Street's first dibs. And so last year I was able to secure 4 spots and this year 2 spots. For businesses to take part in kind of a 2-part process. One is receiving technical assistance in kind of a tech assessment of their business and their operations, and then grant funding to implement some sort of improvement. So we've seen this used for point of sale systems, for website upgrades and redesigns and things of that nature. And because it hasn't really required any board action or hasn't required a bigger application process, we haven't promoted it, or it hasn't been as kind of on the radar. But I just wanted to take a moment to show you which businesses have received that, both in 2022, and then this year via lottery system will be Jungle Pets and Tibbetts Opera House. Recent rebate awards, which we've kind of already went over. We've had 3 checks given out, one at 44 North Hanchett Street for the work that was done there, and then 2 checks that have to do with renovations at 49 West Chicago Street, some by the building owner and replacing the windows and the framing, and then the exterior improvements in terms of the gooseneck lighting, the historic elements, and the signage for Hope Cafe / the Chameleon. So we do have 26,000 and change of funds remaining in that program, and that does account for everything that we have earmarked and already have approved. So that's what we have remaining for this current fiscal year, which is a pretty good amount. I wanted to give you an update on the accreditation call. We did a self-assessment last year where we sit in terms of whole plethora of criteria related to our operations. And I wanted to let you know that they'll probably have a site visit this fall, and we'll be able to reassess ourselves basically on the progress we've made for the past year. A lot of which will be covered by the committee projects that are being tackled. Will give us some really great points of improvement, I think. And then also to update you that we applied for an application-based service that we are eligible for as a select level community. And even though we had previously had funds earmarked for a branding campaign, we won't need so much of those funds because Main Street is going to provide us with a consultant to lead us through a branding campaign, not just of the downtown district as a destination, but also for this board as an organization and an entity in and of itself. So we're looking to complete that sometime in the spring timeframe, and there'll be 3 robust days of stakeholder meetings and other activities led by a consultant to help put together plans and guide us through that branding process. So very exciting. Does a lot of the lifting on behalf of our promotion committee, so which is a project they had already chosen to prioritize. So fits in really nicely. And then I just wanted to show you a rough exterior look at what the downtown restrooms are going to look like. 2 stalls, council officially approved $170,000 and change towards this project on Monday, 20 grand of which we will receive back to us from the Michigan Arts and Culture Council through that grant program. This is going against, this will be going in the Tibbetts Alley, so on South Monroe Street, kind of tucked against one of those building walls to still have some passable area through the alley and give plenty of space for future designs there. So based on the bid that we have and based on the grant parameters through Michigan Arts and Culture Council, this should be finished and will be finished by September, if not sooner. So hopefully we'll be able to use this year for events. Not sure what that highlighter is, but anyway, we've already gone through renovation updates, so I won't go through any of those details of Tibbetts, or not Tibbetts, of the Taylor's building, but I did want to let you know about some additional contributions that have come in recently at roughly just under $4,000 in value. Coldwater Solar / Apex Clean Energy did grant us $1,500, which made its way to us just this week. And then City Glass also provided an in-kind donation of the west-facing windows on the ground floor, kind of offset some of their cost increases for some items that we had to do with them. So the support continues to roll in various ways. And then, of course, a even more robust announcement that we'll have later on that Lisa kind of alluded to. Questions about any more? Okay, great. And she also gave a small update on 27 Marshall Street, still looking at a roughly spring completion for this project. If you haven't walked past lately, please do. The windows look incredible. They're not completely finished yet, and there's still lots of work to do here, but the windows have made such a significant visual impact, and it's been really fun to watch. And this may or may not be my last slide, and just to give you a heads up about new and upcoming businesses. So Rainbow Connection has already opened at 42 West Chicago Street downtown. You can officially go in there for retail. They have, similar to how Hope Cafe has vendor set up and kind of offers a really unique and diverse range of items. You can go in there to shop. And they also have support services and space for the LGBTQ plus community to meet as well. So serving a lot of functions there. And I believe they're also working with our designer on signage, last I checked. Similarly, Jungle Pets is also working with Spooner Designs on a design for their signage. They'll be opening February 4, which is the same day as the Love Local event. So hopefully the work that the Economic Vitality Committee is doing on that event will bring them plenty of foot traffic that day. And they're having more exotic pets, think amphibians and other things I can't remember the terms for, cold-blooded creatures. So that will be lots of fun and interesting to have downtown. And liquidation businesses, when I gave this report to council on Monday, I said that there was one coming, but I have learned that there are officially and formally 2 opening in different locations, one at 15 West Pearl, which is the former Daily Reporter, and then 34 West Chicago Street, which is formerly Northwoods.
What is a liquidation business?
So essentially they get items that have kind of like overstock. So they get them less expensively and in large quantities, essentially, kind of taking care of inventory from businesses that need to clear out. I do not have opening dates for either of those. Oh, I've got lots more. I forgot. Sorry to get your hopes up that I was almost wrapped up. I did give a presentation, as I mentioned, to City Council on Monday, and I've got 2 more scheduled for this season. This could fill in. It has slowed down since we're not directly fundraising for the Children's Museum project anymore, but still getting out and about to different groups and for different purposes. Or if there's someone you want me to talk to, let me know and I'll put it on my calendar. So this is a quick look at the upcoming trainings that are being offered by Michigan Main Street. So there's a series of these that I'll be participating in as the director, related to grant writing and proposal development and real estate development, both of which are a 4-part series. And then there's a director's retreat planned later on this year for October. Opportunities that will be available to the board, in which I'll send more information out to you in the monthly newsletter, include the spring workshop, which is kind of the capstone of sorts for the real estate development courses. So in early May, we'll be able to take volunteers and board members who are interested to go through that training. They are also starting up a cohort for chairs and vice chairs of Main Street boards to meet roughly twice a year for training and networking specific to those individuals who serve those roles in Main Street communities. And then the accreditation visit later on this year that I mentioned previously. Also, I'll also be doing, as the director, an Initiate Small Business cohort. There is a portal that is available to organizations such as ourselves in our communities that is provided by the MEDC, and it's licensed by an entity called Northern Initiatives. Northern Initiatives is the same entity that manages the revolving loan fund that helps provide financing tools to, or can provide financing tools to projects in Coldwater. I believe Tasty Twist has accessed that loan pool for some of their improvements, and the Coldwater Aquapit more recently has accessed funding as well for their project. So same organization, and they will be hosting this cohort. And then in mid-February, there will be an opportunity to invite businesses to participate in a virtual training to learn more about those resources in that portal as well. So no action items for you there, just another update of other content I'll be sitting in on. Other projects that I'm working on that are outside of the DDA or not exclusive to the DDA is a joint training session between City Council, the Planning Commission, and the DDA. More information and a date in March to come. This is one of those items that is part of our redevelopment ready community, the RRC certification that makes us eligible for a lot of the grant funding I mentioned earlier, and also helps get boards together to understand how we can work together, what our roles are, and kind of how these different entities all contribute to planning and development and, project management in the city. So stay tuned for that. I'm also independently working with a group on a workforce talent needs survey for Branch County manufacturing businesses, continuing to respond to RFPs and conduct some intermittent site visits and provide technical assistance to companies as well who are seeking, could be job training resources, grant applications, and things of that nature. And I just reference that to kind of give you a small look at some of the other things that I do in addition to managing the DDA as a board. And then in May, I will be presenting to the Citizens Academy group about downtown development and economic development broadly. And so I'll be doing my part in that program. So this has been a program that Keith has worked on and has wanted to do for a long time. And is it 6 sessions, Keith? Yeah, 6 sessions once per month, a couple hours where volunteers and interested people in the community in a cohort get to tour city facilities, learn about the operations of us as an organization, and meet with department heads so that they get a really broad look at the services that we provide and how we provide those services and the wide range of activities that are involved with local government. And so not only does it help people who live here understand how we work, but also kind of creates interest in, future board service and getting involved locally. I don't know if I skipped one. See. Oh, I didn't. Great. Quick note on staff updates. Shauna Chavez over here is our new city clerk and was sworn in last month to replace Sue Heath, who continues to work part-time. So we congratulate her on that new and formal role. Very exciting. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who's with us and takes minutes for us and does a great job of things I would probably butcher if I had to do myself. Katie Higgs Fellowship did conclude. Her report was included in the consent agenda for you to review. She did present to council. Considered having her present to this board, but wasn't sure how much time we had today. We could welcome her back at another time if you'd like, but I do encourage you to review her report. She did an incredible amount of work for our community, really contributed a great deal to our RRC certification efforts, assisted us with our bylaws update, and played a significant role in the fundraising, the Patronicity fundraiser. It was incredibly useful, and I am very grateful to have had an additional staff person to assist with both downtown projects and community-wide projects. So very grateful for her service, which, yes, she did, which concluded in December. She's now working with MEDC as an RRC planner. So kind of a really great segue into that role based on her service and what she's done here. So we might see her face again from time to time. And hopefully we do. So
A face we know.
yes. And then, of course, Dean Walrack is transitioning to the CBPU's GIS department and no longer serving as our planning and zoning administrator, and will over time be relinquishing his role of overseeing some of those boards and commissions, such as the Historic District Commission, Planning and Zoning, and Planning and Zoning is Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission. I got those all right. So we will at some point be welcoming a new staff member into that role, which is also roughly good timing for the joint training that we have planned in March and kind of orienting how those boards and commissions work together. So we thank Dean for all the great work that he has done to that end. He played a significant role in our Main Street application process, but he will still, even in his new role, be able to help us with maps and things of that nature and other data that are really helpful to us in the work that we do. So
We're not letting you go, Dean.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
no. Quick note on some items that I will be taking on this year in addition to the Main Street work, kind of outside of work, is I'm pursuing a certificate of public management through Indiana University, and my classes began a couple weeks ago. So currently I'm taking a public budget and financing course. Later on, I will take public human resources management and managing and leading in public affairs plus 2 electives. So just some professional development that I'm working on with support of the city very kindly. That I'm doing outside of work, so in addition to my role serving you all. And then I have PTO planned in September that we will need to plan ahead for because I will be gone for roughly 2.5, possibly up to 3 weeks, and will not even be electronically accessible to you via email. So I look forward to that. I'm also
A wise choice, young
a little
lady.
nervous about how
Wise
full my
choice.
inbox is going to get in the meantime. So. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Oh, and that's it for me. I know that was a lot, but
A lot
we've
going
got a
on.
lot going on this year. It's been a couple months since we met, so I'm happy to take questions about any of that content.
Audrey, I have a question. Is anyone attending the Main Street Conference in Boston?
Just me. I forgot to
Okay.
mention that.
Okay.
No one did express interest in that
Okay.
trip. I know it's a long time frame to plan for, but as soon as I get dates for 2024, I will share that again with the board in case that someone is able to plan ahead and be able to join the director next year.
What's it? Is it in March?
I think we went in April in 2022, April or May actually, and then this year it is in March.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what month it will be.
And then is there any movement on the CLG?
Yes, for Certified Local Government Unit, which
Yes.
is the presentation we had in November, Dina and I have been working on that application. The only outstanding items that we have are a couple resumes, I believe, from the HDC.
Okay.
And then we can start to format that package and be able to send it in. Should be hopefully in the next couple weeks. Would be great.
Good.
And then, of course, we'd have access to those resources to help some of the committee projects that we have planned, such as the design projects, workshops for building and business owners about historic preservation topics, and all of that great fun.
Great.
Any other questions for Audrey?
Thank you for your patience.
Very thorough
Yeah.
presentation. It was great.
Well, you won't remember all of that. I'll keep sprinkling back things, but it's just a
You
a
know
big
I
look
won't
at the
remember
year.
all that. Okay, Apple Fest survey results and 23 festival plans. Julie, please. Thanks for being here.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. If you can remember, the last time I was here talking to you all, we wanted to make a few changes with our festivals downtown for many different reasons, but mainly safety and walkability. So if you didn't go to Apple Fest, we did make that change this year, tried out the Tibbetts parking lot. You can see this drawing right here is where we set up vendors. The four corners were under construction, so we did not use those. But we went down South Monroe, South Hanchett, into the Tibbetts parking lot, and went all the way down to the EB Center. We surveyed the vendors, and 48 people answered the surveys out of 178 vendors. And they liked it. We heard a lot of positive feedback as far as not as noisy. People were able to slowly stroll by their booth rather than having people push them along the way, because if you're on 12, if you remember, you're kind of crowded. So they liked the new layout. They were extremely satisfied with their attendance. They were likely to recommend the festival to other vendors, which is always exciting because we're always looking for new craft vendors or food vendors to come. And they were 96% likely to attend our event again. So then we surveyed the community as well. 152 people completed the survey. 80% liked the new layout. 80% also purchased at the event. 98% are likely to attend the event again, and 98% are likely to recommend it to someone else. We will say that it wasn't perfect. In our eyes, there's improvements that can be made, and we're going to make a few of those changes this next year. We'd like to do a few things that we heard in the surveys that can only improve the festival. We want to bring back the vendor maps. As we took them away basically because, we get vendors that sign up at the last minute and it's really hard to get them on the map. But people really do look at the map if they're looking for a certain vendor to go to, we found out. So we're going to bring those back. Now that the Four Corners is complete, we'd like to use the southwest corner. So we would stretch the festival down to that corner, so that would all be from that corner all the way down to the EB Center, would still be on US 12, and then still using South Monroe, South Hanchett, and the Tibbetts parking lot. we're going to assign an extra parking lot for the vendors to park. So this year, what we asked the vendors to do with their trucks and their trailers is don't take up the parking that your shoppers want to use, right? So we asked that they parked, oh, help me out with the name of the parking lot, Keith. Roosevelt parking lot behind the police station. And then we hired Beta to transport the vendors back and forth to their booth. So it worked out somewhat well. We do need to increase our Beta transportation a little bit more, and we need an extra parking lot because the vendors filled that one up quickly. And we didn't really realize how quickly that happened. So we heard over and over again, we need more food trucks. Our restaurants could not keep up with the amount of people. And I think they were still struggling with staffing issues. So we're going to hopefully bring in some more food trucks that people can enjoy. And the improvement of setup and tear down is always interesting when you do something for the first time, lining Tibbetts with the chalk, and it was dark, and you can't see the marks, and there's just little things that we want to make sure we improve so that it flows better too for like tear down, so that people can quickly get in and out. And then we're going to make sure that no one sets up on the north side of the road. We did have some vendors very angry at us that there were businesses set up on the north side and they have to pay for their booths. And, so we're going to try to patrol that a little better. And then anything else that we hear from the community, we're open for suggestions as well. So today, I just wanted to bring all of this to your attention, give you some of the results since we did bring it to you to begin with. We're going to recommend that we keep the new layout and with the addition of the southwest corner and move on from there. Questions, concerns?
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned that we would not allow business owners on the north side
Agree.
of 12
I was
to
gonna ask.
to
Yeah,
set
and
up.
we have debated that, and I'm looking for suggestions to
I mean,
help me out
they
with
pay
that.
taxes, they're there, they're part of the community.
Right.
Sorry, vendors.
Yeah, so no, I understand. So here's the history of Apple Fest and Strawberry Fest is if anyone wants to be part of our festival, we ask them to pay a $50 vendor fee. Businesses do it too, like even when it was down both sides. So like if, Courtney, you want to have a booth out in front on the south side, you're going to pay $50, okay? Last year, we just didn't want to make it, any waves with people on the north side because, we kind of felt bad that we were moving everything to the south side, right? So we didn't ask them to pay. But what's going to happen is vendors are going to set up over there and not be part of our festival. They'll set up in front of businesses. They could set up right in front of your store and we wouldn't have any control over that.
Wouldn't we have the police remove them? I mean, if they're not authorized to be there, they're in violation of law.
Right. But so how do, I always question, how do you, if you want to set a booth out in front of your store,
Right.
I'm going to charge you 50, but Brad, you don't have to do any of that.
Well, I mean, maybe we still have, if that's what the rule is, maybe those businesses do pay that $50 fee.
But then what happens is you have vendors that are spread out. So on the north side, it's not, and what we hear is, they like it when the vendors are close together and there's a lot to look at. So, you might have one booth and then you might not have another booth for another block. So yeah, we struggle with that because I understand, that, businesses, want to be part of this too.
I mean, I guess I struggle with that, even though I know it'd be more spread out in the north side. I think not allowing the businesses that we're trying to bring this in for to set up outside to kind of highlight that they're open is.
My concern would be, so Children's Museum wouldn't be able to do anything on their sidewalk on that.
Right, and we've talked to them, and what
Okay.
they said that they would do is they would rent a booth in the Tibbetts parking lot and have some of their stuff over there.
Well, and I've had some conversations about this. In 1985, when Apple Fest started, Audrey and I talked about this also. Philosophy of events where it's actually dollars community events versus retail events.
Yes. So when like Apple Fest and Strawberry Fest were done, started in '85, the idea was you were going to have these booths in front of all the businesses. It maybe wasn't going to generate money into the business that day, but it was going to give recognition. For instance, if I'm in front of a booth in front of Keith's Jewelry, I'm going to remember that Keith's Jewelry is there, and next week I'm going to come down and buy a bracelet. That was the philosophy. I think we have, obviously, Apple Fest and Julie's team just does an amazing job with their festivals. But I do think we still have a unique aspect for downtown, and we specifically have the Children's Museum at one end, and then you have one of our largest draws, particularly in the morning, of Genie's at the other end, right? And so you've got these two really big significant, like for us, I'm thinking that the Children's Museum are being nice, thinking they would do something in the lot, but really you're going to want people to be able to come in or at least see that building, right, as a form of advertisement. We had, and I did attend Apple Fest, and like I said, there were lots of great changes. My recommendation, which I'm sure Julie's going to hit me in the back of the head, but my recommendation is that some of the vendors, that we still do vendors on the north side of the street. I know that in the very beginning, we had, 50 vendors, right? Let's say, that started out, and we have so many now that it causes this concern for safety along those streets. But if you did half of them, if you had two anchors, if you had Irma's, wow. If you had Genie's and you had the Children's Museum anchoring that, and then you were able to put vendors along that north side, I think politely the vendors on the north side have been pretty quiet about their disappointment for that. And I know there's the crossing of the street, but I think it's going to be a big issue if we don't address it some way for those businesses. Because again, Apple Fest isn't just for the vendors. Apple Fest is for the downtown businesses, right? To get people to come in to downtown. So that's my thoughts on that. And I think it's really going to be an issue with the Children's Museum and with Genie's if we don't figure out how to make that side part of the festival.
Right.
Go ahead.
These festivals have grown into their own entity. You're right, Lisa. Obviously, I've been through all of those. And it was for the exposure downtown, as we're all aware. That was the main factor point. But they've grown in, just like the environment has changed in downtowns. These festivals have morphed into their own entity almost. And I think you're right, Lisa. You know and understand the exposure is important to business, and we paid for that in the day. The Downtown Business Association paid for that in the day. Well, I know. Right. But it was very directly tied to the businesses at that point. So I think it sounds like, you're doing a fabulous job, really. And I totally agree. I think we should continue to look into how the downtown as a whole can fit into this program in a healthy way, and who gets charged, who doesn't get charged.
Right.
Like I see, in some ways, it's exposure like the old sidewalk sales days. For our store, that's nothing. Jewelry stores do nothing with sidewalk sales any longer once giftware went away for us. But Integrity Apparel, I could see that as a great exposure for him to clear out some product and have lots of people and be healthy for his business. Ours is all indirect.
Right.
So things to discuss, I
Yeah,
think.
and definitely, those are great points, and Lisa has a lot of great points as well. The only thing that I want to point out is the reason that I first came to you is the north side is not a great place to walk and have a wheelchair accessibility. It's just not. It's very crowded. In front of Genie's Diner, it's very, very difficult to get down through there. And the vendors will set their tent stakes up into the road, and it's not safe. Today's world, people are distracted. They're on their phones, they're texting. I just don't want an accident to happen. That's why I originally came to you guys about changing it. Because honestly, in our life, it'd be easier just to go down the north side and the south side and not do Tibbetts parking lot. I mean, it'd be way easier for setup, but we're trying to provide the best festival atmosphere we can for the community and the vendors. Because if you don't keep the vendors happy, you're not going to have a festival. They're not going to come,
The two-way street. I agree.
you know. So
On the side, you able to do less amount of vendors, smaller amount of vendors on that south side because
we didn't, because again, no, spacing needs to consistently be the same because people don't want the gaps. Vendors don't want to have a gap because what it does is if you have a gap, people stop at that point and they might not even see your booth. So if you can have vendor after vendor after vendor after vendor, it makes the vendors happy and it also makes the shoppers happy so that they don't have to have multiple gaps.
we just have to add in the businesses on the north side being happy.
Right, and we've discussed many things. I think Audrey and Keith and I sat down and we talked about sidewalk sales. You know, could we have the north side doing sidewalk sales like you had mentioned? But again, it's going to space it out. We have problems with people crossing US 12, to get back and forth. And
Remember,
that's,
one thing we talked about is if you say you did allow solely the businesses on the north side to set up, it's the ones who it would make sense for them to do that. There are still so many gaps. Like you're talking about 1 or 2 per block, not 5 or 6. And so it's just kind of an awkward arrangement that doesn't necessarily
Right.
encourage more foot traffic in a sense. And then the part about your staff having to deal with basically getting yelled at by all the vendors who can't set up in their old spots, who have been there for 10 plus years, and you know how that's not really fun for you as festival organizers either. And so there's just a lot of things to consider, which is why this is, hard to do and why we spend so much time thinking and talking about it.
mm-hmm.
Well, I think obviously there'll be some more discussion before things are finalized, and I'm glad to see the open communication and looking at it from both sides.
Well, will there be though? Isn't this intended to be the recommend?
This is the recommended plan for this
Okay.
year. We already have Strawberry Fest applications and Apple Fest applications that are coming in. This is what we have told vendors it will be like. That doesn't mean that we can't send out another email saying, hey, we've changed things. But this is the recommendation that we're putting forward.
Okay.
Do you have an idea of what you were thinking of using for the additional parking? I know that it was a concern and
Yeah, we're considering, is it Infinisource parking lot that we would recommend that the vendors park in? And this year, we're changing a few things too. We're getting their license plates and we're trying to make it more official that, we're going to make them park away, so that there is more open parking available.
Julie, I know you had talked about knowing that we're taking up one of the biggest parking lots that we have with vendors. And then, so most people would probably park across on the north side anyways and walk. Is that what happened? Or are people already crossing Chicago Street? That's what I'm wondering.
They parked everywhere. I will say, they were everywhere. Yeah, I can't really say exactly where they parked.
I'm just
the
saying
most.
if they are already crossing Chicago Street to park.
Right. So if they parked at, say, the bank, they would cross at the light and, start at EB and go down. Some people parked, I think, in different spots. So they started at one other end and went down. So yes, to your point, there is people crossing. It wouldn't be, as much crossing as there would be as if we were on both sides, I don't believe, because, you probably got about half and half. But
So, obviously there's interest in doing something on the north side, but I don't see that we're going to have a solution
right.
to cure that this morning.
Do you have a committee? Is it a committee based or is it just your department or?
Our department basically runs it with guidance from Keith and Audrey. We meet occasionally.
it seems counterproductive to our stated mission
Right.
to
Agree.
specifically prohibit businesses on the north side from participating when we are trying to do all that we can to encourage participation, I think that it sends the wrong message from us to specifically prohibit those specific businesses.
How many vendors do you have in just the Tibbetts? Does it seem like it was?
I don't have that number with me.
I know there's a lot of also vendors that are like organizations. And like,
That's where we were.
you know, maybe
Rotaries.
maybe the organizations could be on the north side, right, where you still have a flow of people have that business. I know what you're saying in regards to safety. For years, for decades, it was those two parks that were utilized, all four parks, and then it would come down. So there are different things, in different ways, and like I said, it was obviously really well attended, and it was a nice way to go, but for specifically downtown events, that north side being included is something that.
Right. Well, yeah, and I mean, it isn't something that we haven't given any thought to. We really have thought a lot about it, and you know, I go back to like, you know, right out in front of Schemmel's, there's about 1 foot of space. Like the sidewalk is, I think, 9 feet wide, so the 10 by 10s go out into the street. You've got about 1 foot to walk. We move flower pots bright and early in the morning because there's flower pots sitting out there. Jeannie's has tables and chairs that we have to move. You know, it's just a lot. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I think that brings atmosphere to downtown, and I like the look of it and everything, but it's just more obstacles. You know, there's benches now to remove. The four corners are beautiful, and we're going to use the southwest corner. But, you know, I don't want to set a vendor up on the beautiful brick pavements that have oil for popcorn and, you know, ruin something either. So, you know, all of those things we do consider. And it's not that we don't want the north side businesses to be involved in the festivals. We haven't figured out a way to say, you can do it, but you can't, kind of thing. So it's easier for us to say no one can than to pick and choose who can.
I guess I feel for the four corners as well. You know, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars have gone into that project, and to not have them be utilized by an event in downtown? When else are they besides the farmer's market? You know, I guess I get that, you know, maybe food vendors aren't there, but I would hate to see that those four corners not be used after that beautiful renovation. And
Well,
people
that's
on
what we
there.
want to use the southwest corner for sure, because there's a lot more grass area.
Is there a way that the CDA can have part of your events committee from the street and have conversation and then get with Julie in regards to what the possible fix might be on the north side? If it's not specific vendors, if you will, if there's investigate or see what other communities have done. So, I mean, communities along 12 have to have problem because of 12 being so busy and size of sidewalk.
And we have also looked into, I know Keith has looked into many times, could we close US 12 for the festival? Because that would be ideal, right? To, you know, and we just, there's no way to do that.
They won't let that happen.
I think this is a good discussion for us to have, though, too, as we look at streetscapes in the future and how they're affecting these events, and how we can help, you know, make our streetscapes more useful for events like this.
But
So I
you-
think what Lisa has mentioned sure wouldn't hurt, and it needs to happen promptly, that the committees pull together and at least have a final discussion and recommendation. Because obviously there's some questions and concerns, and you guys have talked in depth about it, so you've addressed some of these things, and we haven't been as privy to some of that conversation, and not that you've hidden anything from us, it's just we're talking now.
Right.
So I think, you know, we can hash this over all morning, and I don't think we're going to come to the result that we're looking for.
Then you should designate a committee now
Well,
and set a date to meet.
how about, yeah, I agree with you, with
So
the
that-
promotion committee. Wouldn't that be a natural
well,
under
you
that? Or just,
I think it should be whoever of the board wants to be a part of this specific topic.
okay. And if we do that within the next week or two, would that be soon enough, next week even?
Well, like I said, all this information is already out to the vendors. They're signing up as is. This is our plan. But that doesn't mean that we have, if you decide to, suggest that we try letting the businesses put something out on the north side, I'm not closed to that idea. We can put that out there. That's not going to affect what we've already done. You know what I mean?
And that's something we need to work harder in the future, is having these conversations ahead of time.
Yeah.
And I get it, busy life, and you did have input, and I'm not chastising. I'm just saying, obviously, we have some input here and concern, and that recommendation from the board.
So who would like to be a part of that
Briar would be good.
special committee? That's the question that I need answered.
I can help with that.
Had you written down already? John? And we can have up to 2 more per quorum.
I can. As
Courtney?
usual.
Yeah, that'd be good. One other, good. Chris? Next week, be good. Is there a particular day, morning, afternoon? I got to kind of look where we're at, but how's mornings or afternoons for you guys?
Mornings are better.
Mornings?
I'm
What time in the morning's good for you,
Anything
Courtney?
but Tuesday morning.
So,
All week for me next week.
9 o'clock? And
Wednesday?
Wednesday?
I can't be there Wednesday, but
Can you be?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Yeah, because it would be good to have you there with past conversation.
you can do Thursday.
Thursday? 9 o'clock?
None. Thank
Here. And we'll have we'll have another discussion with our thoughts and see where we can go from there, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions for Julie quick this morning? Thank you, Julie.
All right.
And
Thank you.
you guys are doing a great job.
Oh, thanks.
You really are. We appreciate what you're doing, and we wouldn't be what we are without you. There's no two ways about it. Thank you.
Audrey, I'm just wondering, what would be a good idea when we're doing some of those? So when we're talking about like planning commission and city council and things like that, to have Julie's department involved, just because they do have the 2 biggest events that affects our downtown, or maybe just
I don't think for that joint meeting that
Okay.
necessarily is the purpose.
okay.
We can talk more about that.
Okay? Okay. Item 14, Economic Vitality Project Report. Michael, anything?
Let's see. Excuse me.
A lot of text on this page.
Yes, sorry about that. We have the Love Local Soup event coming up on February 4th. Excuse me. And we're looking for, probably a little bit too late on the request for funding. Probably should have come before instead of after. But
We were just talking about that, weren't we, Julie?
we are down the path to, on this event. Obviously, it's been announced to the public. It's a soup and chili contest for businesses. Evidently, since individuals may not be approved through the health department, they're not able to participate. But we have 12 participants at this time, some of which are the downtown restaurants, some of which are other businesses that are coming to other downtown businesses that will host them. So we're looking to have a great event. It'll include Valentine's card station, So maybe I'll be able to remember to get one this year. So that'll help me out. Photo booth, and there'll be a live piano at the museum company. So I think I'm hitting most of what will be happening. So the money that we're seeking relates to cups and spoons and the boxes for voting, the cards for voting, the photo booth, and tickets, and just a few other miscellaneous items like that. The current number for that, do you have a number in there?
1530. It's small. I know. That's the current total.
Are you making a comment on my inability to see small? There you go, much better. Yeah, we're looking at that 1,500 number there that my old eyes can now see. So that's the rough number, and broken down underneath there, you can kind of see where those various items are that add up to that amount. That should be a really great event. We're hoping to bring a lot of people in, particularly with 12 vendors. There's been a lot of advertisement already, both formal as well as on social media. So we're hoping for a great event. So looking for some support for the actual funding of that event.
I'd also like to know, this is kind of a response to how the changes of Winterfest this year, since that is going to be at Heritage Hall, and trying to pivot and provide an alternative downtown event in winter. So we did contact everyone who had submitted feedback about, the Winterfest updates and ask them if they wanted to participate in planning an alternative option. And Julie's team was really gracious and kind and let me keep the chili cook-off, which is one of my chili and soup cook-off, which is one of my personal favorite things to do that has been downtown. And basically we built our event around that and planned around some other key community events that were coming up to find a weekend that worked. And then also using this as a time to allow businesses to promote retail sales kind of ahead of the Valentine's Day season. So that's a little bit about why we started, and it's kind of a general love local theme, of course, with the soup chili portion of that, and then the other activities that we have sprinkled in, that we've kind of planned quickly, using, again, some templates from the rec department, which were incredibly helpful. They've given us their extra supplies from previous years, and then, of course, we've had to order additional to provide to all of the chili stations and the other expenses that are listed, so. This is technically the first Main Street event that we've had that is organized primarily by the board. It is the Economic Vitality Committee with also volunteer from the chamber who's contributed quite a bit as well.
Yes. And although we're coming asking money in the rears, there had been discussion and time sensitive, as we were discussing earlier, Julie, we had to keep moving forward. So
I will say we've only actually paid $300 for things. So you could.
So we could back down if we need to.
Your right to refuse.
So do we need a formal approval from the board on that?
To approve the work plan and the appropriation request.
Motion to approve. John, so moved.
Second.
Second by Courtney. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
If you're around, get your tickets, please.
And just to compliment the Winterfest activities, what a super day you guys are putting together out there, Julie. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That's really exciting.
And the library is hosting a sled making workshop. Is that tomorrow or tonight, John? I think it's tomorrow. It's okay. Well, it's this week, and there's a Facebook event for it. It's for Thursday, yes.
And talking about things evolving, it was a natural to take it out there.
Yeah,
Good
there's
job.
a cardboard sled race portion of the event, in addition to the sled dogs, and they've got a really robust lineup of fun to be had.
Awesome. Okay. Promotion committee, Courtney, any update? Yes?
Can you zoom in?
Yep.
Sorry.
Can.
No comment.
So, right, exactly. So we would like to bring to the board the idea of having some general photography done of events for promotion in the future. So we have met with Brianne Kanak, who has gotten us a quote back for taking photos of events over the course of the entire 2023 for the most part. So all of the parades that are going on that are hosted in downtown, she would take pictures of. Memorial Day, on the Four Corners, Paint the Town Red, any library outdoor events that might be had and things like that. She would come and do some photography of. So we've got it to promote the following years.
Okay, any
Simpler work
questions?
plan, because it's basically just a list of events that she'll be taking photos of, and then us, supporting the cost of that. There will be, I think, a third photography project coming up that will have a little bit more coordination involved for some specific promotion, but this is just a general to capture the downtown on a year-round basis.
Social media, you got to stay out there.
And for the future website, right?
Yeah,
So-
all right. I think that's great. Is there any other questions or concerns regarding the request?
We were just saying it's a great price for all of this photography. So
Yeah, no, I think
we're happy to have her.
good experience. So we'll entertain a motion to approve the $800 for the photography, the season of photographs, I should say.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Michael, support by Chris. Is there any further discussion, questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Chris?
In our promotions committee, we also would like to request funds to place an ad in the Tibbetts playbill The cost this year, the expense would be $1,030. And it has a large subscription base that we would be able to reach with that. It would be a full ad, full page ad. And yeah.
Yeah, this is the same ad placement as last year, inside cover, prime real estate. They did send us a couple letters with some more stats about that it's mailed to over 15,000 households. In addition to it's handed out directly to every summer theater, popcorn theater kind of event goer in the season. So, and people who are already visiting downtown. So it's pretty direct impact there.
And with our focus on arts and culture experiences, this is the main arts and culture organization downtown, and we would like to continue our support as a board.
Obviously, a natural tie-in. The exposure, I feel, is very reasonable. Seeing how I pay for advertising day in and day out in my operation. So, any questions for Chris? Not pushing this along, but I'm making a motion or entertain a motion to support.
I'll
To
make a
approve.
motion to support the arts and culture experience for an advertisement in Tibbetts for $1,030.
Michael, second by Mal. Thank you. Any further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Oh, we have something left, right? And yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Last but not least.
Yeah, last but not least, I believe, is we will push through the others. And thank you for bearing with us here a little bit today. We did obviously need to take care of some things, and I appreciate the conversation about the festivals. Election of officers, which I can't remember the last time we've done this.
Yes. Per your new bylaws, we've got to be up to date on officer selection.
Mm-hmm. And so we will open the floor for nominations. And please don't stampede me with all your interest.
Yes, we don't have any formal process. You can nominate yourself. You can nominate others for either president or vice president. And then once we have those in, we'll vote on each, or perhaps some discussion and voting. We'll see how it goes in our
First of all,
election
we'll do it for the officer of president. And I will put on the floor the name of Michael Kaywood.
I will second.
Is there any others? Isn't it amazing how it gets quiet during these times?
Go, Mike, go.
So with that said, any comment, Michael? Good to go?
None, other than if you're not interested in continuing on, because you've done such a phenomenal job, I guess I would take that role, but if it'd be nice to have a sidekick who has a few more years of experience than me remain on the board.
Fair enough. And as there's been some discussion over time, and I will say this out loud. I have talked to Audrey and the gang. This has been in the process for a while. I've sat in this seat, quite frankly, too long. And change is healthy. And we're going through the new structure of Main Street, and I'm so excited this board is diving in and working with it. And I think it's a good time for some change. So if there's not any other nominations, I believe we vote on this as a board. So accepting Michael Kaywood as president, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Michael, very much for taking the responsibility. We have a VP position open.
I'd like to nominate Brad Rocky for vice president to stay on and work us out of this. Keep the historical information that we need so much still on this board for one more year.
I would second that nomination for all the same reasons. Brad, what you've done, you've been on this board since 1991. Your institutional knowledge, as well as your knowledge of the city and everything else, is going to be invaluable as I guess I transition in. So certainly, we'll celebrate you at other times as well, but thank you for all of your contributions you have given to the DDA, the community as a whole, not just this organization and others. So
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Yes, I think I'm committed here for a couple years
That's
anyways.
what I think. He said his board membership position still has, I want to say a couple years.
So I'm willing to share what I can share for the next year under the vice president position, if you guys are okay with that. So, motion's on the table. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Should I? No. Okay, I'll accept. So we have the positions filled, president by Michael, vice president by myself, and let's continue to move forward. It's been an awesome transition, I feel, and I'm excited about the next few years. So great. The problem is you're gonna have to sit in this chair a while to get to your feel. It's got my imprint in it, I'm afraid. Okay, with that said, old business, none. I think we've discussed most things. New business, none. Public comments, anything else, Bill, you'd like to share? Bless your heart. You had to sit through one of our longest meetings. And with that said, adjourn. We will adjourn, and the next meeting is February 22nd. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your input today, guys. I know it's a long one. Yeah, I didn't.
Close the meeting, right?
Get out here. Oh, I gotta get this over here before I forget.
Should we take a picture? I think we should. Yeah, we're gonna take a picture. There's Shelby a gavel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Should
we pass it?
Remember what I said.